Well, hey there, hi there, ho there, neighbor. First of all, thank you so much for clicking on this podcast. Excited for you to listen. Excited for you to talk about it later with your friends. Second of all, I just wanted to let you know, a little PSA. This show that we watched, a Violence Jack, or OVA rather, it's rather violent. Shocker, I know, right? Very violent, a lot of very sexually explicit, a lot of crazy stuff going on. So if you're not into that sort of thing, please just give it a skip. You don't have to listen to it. But for those who stayed on the line, you are, wow, oh my God, you are such a sick human being, you vile thing, you. Let's talk Violence Jack.
It's bad. Anime. Bruh.
All right, hey everybody, my name's John Weigel.
And this is Rob Halley.
And this is
Bad Anime,
the podcast where we decide, is this anime bad?
And this one actually is I've heard a lot about this one. I've never seen this one, but I'm very excited today. Today we're watching Violence Jack Evil Town.
Ooh, okay. Okay, first of all, the name, wait, is it Violence Jack or Violent Jack?
Violence Jack.
Violence Jack.
Yes, indeed.
This sounds very promising.
Yeah.
And you had said to me, Rob, that this particular anime is banned in Australia.
Yes, I know for a fact, because it's weird. How we're doing this, guys. Yes, we're starting with Evil Town because Evil Town's actually was the second OVA released in Japan, but for some reason it was the first released in the West. So they kind of fucked with the release order. But since Evil Town's more notorious, I figured, we got to start with that.
Oh, that's exciting.
It's banned in Australia. Violence Jack, written by the original manga was written by Gonagai. That name sounds familiar. It's because he was actually the writer of Devilman.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So did he write this after Devilman?
Yes, and it's actually it's a pseudo sequel.
Interesting.
Because at the end of Devilman, spoilers. It came out in 72, 71. So if you guys haven't seen it, I'm sorry, or read it, I'm sorry rather. At the end of Devilman, the world blows up.
Oh, okay.
And this
the entire world blows up.
Yeah, and this is set after an apocalypse.
Oh, so it is kind of the sequel to Devilman.
Yes,
basically.
This started production in, I believe, 73.
Well,
and it wasn't revealed until like the 90s that it was actually a Devilman sequel.
Well, I remember the one time that we did watch Devilman.
Right.
I only watched one Devilman. It was the OVA.
That would be the birth.
Yes,
for the fans at home.
Way back in the day, and the thing that I noticed the most about that was that it was just extremely gruesome and bloody. And so since this is from the same dude, I'm kind of expecting the same kind of thing, especially if it's banned in our great nation of Australia.
Yeah, I'm expecting it to be a little worse. I'm wildly excited because
even the back of the box, like Rob has the physical DVD with us. So
yeah, I didn't want to play around because apparently all the versions online are somewhat censored. This one promises to be uncensored. Because, yes, this Evil Town was originally 60 minutes, and I don't think the full 60-minute version, like this is the DVD for those who want to know. It was released by Discotheque Media in 2015. This is the first time we got in the full uncut version in the States, from what I can tell.
Wow.
There was a while where people who wanted to watch the entire thing uncut had to get the Italian DVD because for some reason the Italian version was uncut.
Jeez. I mean, I feel like that makes sense for some reason.
Cool. Yeah, so this is going to be a thrill ride, and I'm familiar with Gonagai's work. I'm a big fan of it because he's done a lot of great stuff that's not horribly gruesome and violent, but then the other half of his shit is. So
well, but anyways, I guess we could just get into it now. Let's start watching it.
Let's see where this goes. Again, Violence Jack, Evil Town. It's pretty readily available online, but if you're a nerd like me and want the physical copy, you can find it on Amazon or any other DVD distributor. I don't know how many there are left, but go for it. We'll be back in a bit.
And like we do usually, we're just gonna take a second. We're gonna watch this thing, and we're gonna come back, and we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna fire on all cylinders today.
I'm fired up.
It's bad.
God damn it. Fuck everything. What the hell? I am exhausted.
I don't know.
I am exhausted after watching that. And I'm coming in this with a bit of bias. I happen to love a lot of Gonagai stuff. Oh my God. We're both exhausted, ladies and gentlemen.
I am so exhausted. That was
an hour.
That was tough.
That was
tough.
That
to
was an
get through,
endurance
let me
test.
tell you. Wow. And here I was in the first 20 minutes being like, so when's this going to actually pick up? And boy, did it pick up.
Famous last words have never been more famous last words have never been fucking spoken, my friend.
Oh my god.
Yeah, okay, so that was Evil Town.
Oh, Violence Jack, Evil Town. You got a problem. First thing I'll say is you got a big problem when your big moral compass is named Violence Jack.
Yeah, he's the one who's deciding who's right and wrong.
He is the best character, the nicest character, and the most genuine character.
He's the only good person in the show.
How?
Except the green-haired woman.
Yeah, she's great. I mean, all like the women in... Well, okay, let's take it from the top.
Yeah.
Shall we?
So basically, what this thing is, there's an apocalypse, and there's an underground city that's split up into 3 sections: A, B, and C. Right. Section A is trying to dig a way out. They find this big fucking goofy giant dude.
His name is Jack.
Yeah, and they explain to
Violence Jack.
Violence Jack, because he has a jackknife, and he says, fucking call me Jack, Violence Jack, because he's Bond or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
So basically, they're like, hey, help us out in our fight against Section B, and they're a bunch of bikers who we meet, and they're very violent.
And so Section A are all kind of like businessmen,
dudes,
business dudes.
cops.
Like they used to be cops. They used to be like businessmen. There's a mayor. So kind of all like intellectual-esque kind of dudes, like from the service.
I wouldn't even go that far. It was just like normal society.
Normal society. Section B is
like a biker gang.
Is the underbelly of society, like a biker gang. They're all cyberpunk vibes.
Right.
Everybody's got like a different look to them. Everybody's got like the shaved mohawks and stuff like that. And they're kind of like a little
and
more
some of them
like
look pretty cool.
They look pretty cool.
I'm biased because this anime is also a lot of thoughts, but this is also 80s as fuck. This came out in '88. A weird amount of professional wrestling references.
A lot of professional wrestling references, which you caught first with
Right
one of the guys in Section B has a face paint similar to Hawk,
Road Warrior Hawk. That'd be in around '88. That's when the Road Warriors were making big bucks in Japan.
Yes,
So
in NWA Japan, right?
No, they wrestled in All Japan and New Japan. They were going back and forth. I don't remember too well. They might have been wrestling New Japan at the time. I don't remember too well.
But then, like, right, so that's Section B, and then Section C is just
woman.
a bunch of women who look very defenseless, and then you realize, oh, because they are, and
because they
Oh,
recounted were all the men from Section A, all the quote unquote normal people, viciously gang raped them, and I didn't think they were going to show it.
That's something they did in this show, in this OVA, that I was it kind of drove me nuts. How they were like, oh yeah, like how this happened and like how that happened, and there was a lot of like sexual harassment, sexual assault, of course, but like in this, like it was alluded to, and then they showed it to you.
Yes,
it was like you saw like 2 seconds of a sex scene, and it just became a whole sex scene.
Yeah, no,
and then you saw like 2 seconds of a stabbing, it became a whole stab. It was like they pulled no punches, and when they alluded to something, they just gave it to you.
They just
full throttle.
Yeah,
and I can completely understand how this is banned in Australia.
Yeah, I thought the first gang rape scene is why this got banned.
Which is weird because you have to say the first gang rape scene.
I
because
know.
there were a few.
There was two.
There was two. I just genuinely was not expecting.
I did not expect the second one.
Wow. I didn't expect any of these. Even the first one, when they said like, oh, you know what the people in Section A did to the people in Section C.
When I saw the Section C was all the girls, I'm like, they all got assaulted. I didn't think we'd see it. Because I know how Gonagai thinks, and I'm like, oh, fuck, that's classic Nagai.
We very much saw everything that happened. Right, anywho, you have this Violence Jack. So Section A found this Violence Jack.
Yeah, so they bring Jack to a summit between A and B. C shows up, says what happened, and says, Jack, will you help us? And his exact words were, I don't have any reason to refuse. Which, like you alluded to, bad sign when he's the moral high ground of the show.
Yes!
Of this OVA.
A man named Violence Jack was like, yeah, I'll go to protect the women because they face adversity unlike anybody else.
I'm a decent human.
Wow.
So
and he's not even a human, kind of. We don't know.
The
backstory of that is a little
I'll
hairier.
get to that in a second because I know it based off my knowledge of Devilman. Funny enough. But anyway, so that goes down. Jack's hanging out with Section C. They're digging a way out, and Jack literally punches a wall of a cave, and is like, "Here's your way out."
And keep in mind, all of these sections have been trying different methods of tunneling themselves out of this underground city for 6 months to get to the surface, to get back to the surface after an apocalypse. And Violence Jack goes up to a random hollow wall and punches it, and like rocks everywhere. And then he's like, "Oh yeah, you can get out through here." And they're like, "Wow." And also, like, when he does that, nobody's particularly excited. When he does that, everybody's like, "Wow, that's great."
Yeah.
And they're like, "I guess we should go." And then the people in the girls in Section C get a notice somehow that there's a conflict between Sections B and A, and that Section B is attacking Section A.
Yeah.
And at the time, the head of Section C, I forget her name. She's the green-haired lady.
Yeah, I started with the name, but I couldn't catch it.
She is the one. She was the one that was assaulted by the cop in Section A. So there's like a cop character in Section A,
right?
And he sexually assaulted her in the flashback, and she's saying that Section B is assaulting Section A, and that Violence Jack should go help. Go
do
stop
something.
the conflict.
Yeah.
Because and he's like, "Why?"
Yeah.
Because like they fucking like murdered and sexually
they're
assaulted
horrible
all of
people.
you.
Let them die, basically.
Right. And she was like, "I just hate to see human life like vanish from the world." And I'm like, "All right, you gotta draw a line somewhere with human
you
life.
draw a line.
Come on,
especially with this crew of characters."
Jesus." But anyways, so Violence Jack begrudgingly goes while they all try to tunnel themselves out. But while Violence Jack is going, right, the guy from Section A, the cop, kills all of his
compatriots,
in Section A
to turn sides and go with Section B.
Right.
And meanwhile, Section B has the leader of the biker gang is this big Haas. And
yes, his name is Mad something.
Solace.
Mad Solace.
Yeah, and he has this little and he has this who we later learn. It's kind of alluded to because I don't know this. It was the 80s Japan, so people, when I'm about to explain this, realize it was the 80s Japan, so they fetishize this a little bit at the time. I guess in the anime world, they called it a futanari, a woman who looks very feminine until you realize she has a massive dong.
And she did. Her name was Blue.
Her name was
and
Blue.
She was Mad Solace's sidekick.
Yeah, and I feel like I should say more because out of respect to trans people, but I want to say this was 88 Japan, so they didn't have a compass for this kind of thing at the time.
No, they
did not. It may appear grossly fetishized by today's standards, and it just was a different time. I want to make that clear. And it's a little uncomfortable to talk about, but anyway, she was also a horrible character.
Oh, terrible!
Because like we alluded to, there was more than one gang rape scene. So what happens is, the cop from Section A joins B. He runs out, and he goes to Section C, and he's like, "Save me! I'm the only one left." And they said, "All right, fine, we're not gonna let you die." Section B is following him. Section B bursts in, again, just goes surprise. And then more assault happens.
Yes, more complete assault. Okay, so it was hard to concentrate during those assault scenes for sure. But what I did make out is that all the men in those scenes, like the animation does a very intriguing thing, where all of the men, their skin turns gray, their eyes go white.
Yes.
And it's just like complete savagery that you're seeing.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is kind of the trope throughout the
apropos,
show, throughout the OVA, where
makes
like
sense.
they're just resorting to savagery, and they don't belong back on mainland.
Yes.
They don't belong back in society.
Yeah. So they have the assault's happening, and before that, Jack and the biker leader got into this big hoss fight. Jack presumably wins. He goes in, he breaks up the assault by viciously murdering everybody. And by vicious, I mean vicious.
Yeah. So the thing is, when I heard that this was like banned in Australia and like considered very violent, that's what I thought we were going to be getting all the time. Didn't expect all the rape.
That was
a whole nother
unfortunate surprise.
But this all like was things that I expected.
The violence.
Just the sheer like bloodiness and goriness of it all, and like him just like slicing people like in the middle of their head.
Yes.
And stuff like that.
And ripping people apart so their entrails are flying everywhere.
Yeah. It was all like wild.
It was legitimate gore. Like there was a difference between bloody and gore. This was gore.
Right. And then like he like kills everybody so that like Section C is able to escape.
Flee. Yeah.
And Section C like flees and they escape. But then Jack also kills Blue.
Yes.
Who is Mad Solace's sidekick.
Yeah, like we said.
So Mad Solace finds that he killed. So Mad Solace gets back up after he lost to Violence Jack the first time.
Yep.
Finds that they killed Blue. And then I think
he's distraught.
Probably the most ridiculous scene out of the whole thing.
Yeah, he's distraught. So He finds Blue's head and says, "I'll see you in hell soon." He starts making out with the decapitated head, which is already gross enough.
Yeah.
And then he said, "I want to become one with you." And I thought, where is this going?
What do you mean, sir?
And I was like, oh, I don't want to even think about it. Open up those darkest, deepest chambers of human consciousness. I didn't expect what happened next. He started eating it.
He ate the head and then he ate her entire body.
Yes.
Both of those things. But
and it took a while.
It took a bit. No, that was like a minute-long scene of him. See, that's what like, again, that's a theme of this show, or this OVA, is like, you see something for a second, and you expect, like, okay, right.
To be over.
He takes one bite out of the head, and normally I would cut after that, right?
Yeah.
If I'm going to do that. Yeah. If I, in my director mind, I'm like, yeah, he needs to eat her, totally, definitely.
Yeah.
I would probably cut away after he takes one bite, and so everybody gets the picture like he's eating her.
Yeah.
But no, they just show the entire, it's like, they don't show the appetizer, they show the entire meal and dessert.
They give the whole thing right there.
Right in front of you. And then during that entire time, too, he's like eating her, consuming her. And then after he does, something happens that I'm like, I was probably the most confused about this thing, is that after he eats her, he like transforms into this otherworldly kind of entity.
Yes.
Like a blood red skinned,
See, okay,
like
this
gremlin
is,
of
this,
sorts.
This is a fault of the show. But where a nerd like me, this came in handy. What I can theorize, and this is pure speculation, but the whole thing with the show, like I mentioned in the intro, it's like kind of a sequel to Devilman.
Yeah.
So if I'm following Devilman lore, what happens is, I think he must have been a demon, or he obviously he was a demon, because the proportion size of these people are massive.
Yeah,
Jack is too.
Dude.
So he's a dormant demon. And eating Blue must have triggered, some reaction to awaken the demon within him, and then because that's a big thing in Devilman, like awakening the demon and stuff. So he just went full demon mode, and then he started crawling around. And right before like the entrance to the outside world, Jack's waiting there with a knife, and they have a battle where the animation just gets weird.
It gets crazy because they both turn like, at one point they both turn completely like blood red, but like sketched red.
Yeah, like it was very
like
weird.
Neon red, orange.
Kind of. I don't even know how to explain it. Yeah, they turn into like silhouettes that are all
they
like
kind of look like
red.
they were just made of lasers.
Exactly.
At that point, and they were just like fighting like that.
It looks like graphics on the Nintendo Virtual Boy.
Yeah.
Except their eyes turned like a blue. Jack's eyes were like a bluish.
Yeah, it was
color.
very weird. The animation was very cool in that scene, I will say.
The animation overall was
different.
Very of its time, and at some points even ahead of it. It was a very ambitious from an animation standpoint in '88.
Mm-hmm.
They did some cool stuff. Only once or twice it looked a little dodgy, but that's nitpicking.
Yeah.
But it's bad anime, so we have to do that.
Right, of course.
But the animation was what it was. Like I said, it was forward thinking. I'll say the least. And the execution wasn't always there, but the animation itself was forward thinking, and just the sheer level of sexuality and violence in this OVA caught me very off guard. It was only like 55 minutes, but the pacing was out of control because it moved so fast that you're constantly seeing these brutal,
just
gory
so,
murders,
like
decayed bodies,
so traumatizing at the end of it. Oh my!
They would linger on disgusting shots. It was
They really did linger. That is one thing that they did.
Almost knocked the mic over. I'm a little I'm just sorry. I'm dazed and confused. Scared.
Yeah, they really dragged a lot of stuff out. I felt like with this, like they just like they had an idea.
We sound so tired,
and they were like, "Yeah, man, I'm just exhausted after that." They were like, "This is going to be gruesome, but let it be gruesome for 15 minutes instead of letting it be gruesome for like a 30-second period."
Yeah.
It was like, wow, they really just took it and just stretched it out. Although there were some very funny bits.
Okay. So we have to clarify. We watched the dub, and honestly, thank God we did. Because it provided some levity.
It was so funny. Like, okay,
if we watched the Japanese, it probably would have been way too serious for us.
Yeah.
Because at least there was a couple points we were dying laughing.
Oh my God.
The one scene that killed you in particular, I have to bring it up. Like one of the first main encounters between Jack and Solace, where Jack in a very serious tone goes, "Your move, Captain Buttwipe." And then I turned to see John hurtled over laughing. It wasn't a bit because we didn't have the mic on. You were just genuinely crying.
It was just like a serious scene. Like, right, okay, like Jack just killed all of his men and his, like, I don't know, like Boothang.
Yeah.
And this guy just comes up and Jack's just like, oh, hello, Captain Butt Wipe. Like, butt wipe. Butt wipe. And he did it twice. He said it twice, which is that was so funny. And then like also in the beginning there was a scene in section B
where
where
when
somebody
they were robbing the grocery store.
No, when somebody they were robbing the grocery store first of all, but when somebody was
Burnout grocery store post up, after an apocalypse, what grocery stores look like in those games.
one of their the section B people was reading a magazine and the magazine was just titled Sex. That was literally
I know I misunderstood. That was
another thing.
That
too.
was the section B was in the hideout when they were raiding the supply store, whatever it was. They were in section B. I think maybe raiding A. I don't remember too well because I just went through a lot. And they was another redhead female character in section B with the biker gang. And again, very cool, very 80s, very 80s.
And they always introduce like a very cool like 80s soundtrack with all
the sound was pretty cool.
Soundtrack was pretty great.
I had fun with it. All the sound, everything made sense from a sound perspective, but one line that got me because there's tons of swearing throughout the whole thing.
Yeah,
some of it's disgusting, and this one character, she says something mean to the guy. I don't remember what she said to the guy with the Road Warrior as face paint. He just flips up. He just flips her off and goes, "Swivel on this, dyke." And I'm like whoa,
wow.
And hearing that line in 2021, I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah, that hit so hard. I was like, oh my God. I was like, wow.
Yeah, because this was made in, like I said, this was made in 88. And I'm led to believe this is probably the same dub they recorded very soon afterwards. So this probably hit American shores sometime in the 90s, I'm going to guess. Because that was a big anime import boom was in the mid-90s. So I'm going to guess it came out from that time. And it's very clearly dubbed in that time.
Yes.
So this is a great cultural... cultural. Let's call it a cultural artifact.
Sure.
Let's be way more fucking generous than we need to be with this. Let's just give this a lot of pass there and just say that.
Yeah.
It was thankfully, like I said, it was 55 minutes, so it was on the shorter side. Or was it 60 minutes? I wasn't keeping track.
It was around an hour.
Anyway,
he sliced it, it was around an hour. Anyway, Jack sliced it. He sliced a lot of people in half.
Oh,
and that was around an hour. But generally, though, I think I will say this. Given all of like the crazy shit that happened in that past hour and like all the stuff that we saw and all like the bad stuff that we saw, I did kind of like the storyline a bit. It was kind of very.
I like the
don't
premise.
know. It was a bit cliche with like, of course, like post-apocalyptic world, blah blah blah. Like
I said,
but,
of
like,
its time.
But very like again.
It was actually. I will say because
the
the original manga for this came out in 73.
Before Mad Max.
Yes.
Right. And this is a very Mad Max kind of show.
Very.
Given that, like, the villain is Mad whatever.
Solace,
Mad Solace. Yeah.
Yeah, no, so it's one of those, I always like to call it intellectual inbreeding, where you have one idea that influences something, and then next thing you know, the adaptation of the first thing takes influence from the thing that took influence from it originally. So it's this weird circle.
It was a weird
circle of influence, let's call it.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see where they took influence from Mad Max. I don't think Mad Max took influence from Violence Jack. I shouldn't have said that, but it was another, it was another series of the same
you can see some parallels.
You definitely.
You can see a lot of parallels through that.
Definitely.
And just the post-apocalyptic thing was pretty cool. I dug the idea of just Violence Jack as a character, like where, like he was just in rubble and then they got him out and then he was like, hey man, I'm just like 18 feet tall.
Yeah, it was cool because you didn't know
anything about this guy.
But it was clearly morally upstanding, but he was just...
Which is so crazy that like this giant freaking dude that's more powerful than everybody in the entire underground is the most morally conscious person out of all of them.
Yeah, and
except for like everybody in Section C, obviously, because like they
didn't have a bad one in the bunch.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, but man, a lot of violence, a lot of like of course like sexual.
Just over the top sexuality and gore.
Very much over the top sexuality.
It was a lot.
Yes.
It's funny because and I'm gonna say in the modern anime community, a lot of OVAs get that rap for being like overly violent, overly sexualized. And a lot of people call it schlock. And I thought, well, I think it's a generalization. But then we watched Violence Jack, and now I want to say I'm sorry to anyone I might have disagreed with, because now I'm just like in the back of my head I'm like, OVAs. Well, you got Violence Jack.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But yeah. And like I said before, I'm a big fan of Nagai, and this is right from his brain. And reading this stuff is a little easier. Like I said, I actually never read much of Violence Jack because the manga was very similar. It was just a lot of the Gonagai trademark violence, but without a lot of the setup. Because that's the thing. Gonagai it was usually a gradual escalation of things getting wildly dark and violent. This one we just started there and stayed there.
And stayed there the entire time.
So that was a little wild.
I'll give them. I mean, the first like maybe 20 minutes to half hour, there wasn't really. It was all build, which was kind of nice because I thought really out the gate we were gonna get like stabby, bloody, disgusting, but it really built up to that point.
And the thing is, they established the world very clearly.
Yes,
I know how this world works. I know what's going on, which I definitely appreciated. I like that I was able to come away with this OVA with most of my questions actually kind of answered.
Yeah.
I generally know what happened.
And this is out of a 3 OVA series, right?
Yes, but they don't. They're all self-contained stories.
Oh, so none of them overlap.
No.
Very interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so they don't really...
So is it just each one, because there's 3 of them, each one is just Violence Jack, just in a different context?
Basically.
Very intriguing.
Yeah, what they did is they adapted different arcs of the manga. They picked and chose an arc and said, "Yeah, let's just adapt
this
that
one." Kinda.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, I mean, I think we basically like touched on everything about this.
Yeah. So, but I will say the ending kind of pissed me off because.
Oh yeah, talk about the ending.
I may have went on a little rant right before we started recording.
And it's not even like the like ending, like as in like plotline ending, because the plotline ending they all get out and it's great, and all like Section C's out.
Section C's out.
Section A and B have been killed by Violence Jack.
They find the ruins of Tokyo. The leader's like, "Oh no, it's destroyed." And then the other girls say, "We can rebuild it." And then for like 2 minutes, it just shows random shots of destroyed Tokyo in a grassy field with a bright sky over it. And the anime refused to fucking end, even though we just sat through an hour of an endurance test. I was getting very hot by the end. I'm like, I just want the show to end. And it just didn't fucking end. Whew. I got a lot of opinions, clearly.
Yeah, the ending was very much dragged out. It kind of had that feeling of like, I don't know, they just kept going like, they just kept like zooming in on things and kept like dragging it out, and they were like, oh, this building's broken, let's look at this for a minute, and let's look at this for a second, let's look at that for a second. So, I mean, yeah, it was a weird ending. The ending, I was happy to see plotline-wise that they got out, that Section C got out.
That's the thing,
and they were like, well, we can rebuild, we can like in the...
They told the story.
You know,
they told the story, they gave it a proper ending. I felt like I know what happened. I can explain the plot of this show, which is better than most OVAs, because a lot of OVAs, even though some OVAs I love, they don't tell you anything.
No.
But this one I got a full story, so I got to give it marks for that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I got to ask you the question right now.
Yes, ask me we got to ask the big question, right?
Is it bad?
Is it bad? Who do you want me to go first?
Sure.
All right. See, I don't think so, because I don't know if bad is the way to describe it. It's not bad. It's just like because I was okay the whole time. Once again, like entertained,
right?
In the first half, mortified in the second half.
Yeah.
The entertaining bits to me really shone through. And the parts that I liked, I really liked, especially with the dubbing. I was kind of curious on like what that was going to be like.
The dub did pull a lot of like heavy lifting.
It turned out to take a lot of really cool liberties.
Yeah,
so
I like that.
I really dug, of course, the butt wipe line. So I mean, I think generally, for me, not bad. I'm going to label it not bad because the exact reasoning is that I was entertained at moments. And I was genuinely intrigued in the character of Violence Jack and who he is and where he's from. And I want to know more about him.
Gotcha.
And I think leaving me on that note, it wasn't bad.
Gotcha.
But there are a lot of bad things about it, of course.
Right. It was shit. I mean, this was just shit. I'm sorry. This was just bad. I mean, yes, I said it. It's bad. And maybe I'm coming in. This is actually a case where actually my bias is working against me because I'm familiar with the author. I'm familiar with the other works.
Right.
Because there are some cases where I'll come into a show with like some pre-existing bias and I will give it positives because of it. This is actually the reverse of that. Because as you can see, I got the Devilman series right there on a shelf and I have Cutie Honey next to it. I love Gonagai. This was just him at his worst. And it's an anime studio saying, "Oh, it's violent and dumb. Print it." To me, I don't know. My familiarity with the author is detracting. So I can understand why you enjoyed parts of it. I totally can. For me, it's just my familiarity is working against me.
Is it in the terms of that? Do you see it more as like lazy, or do you see it as kind of like it's just like par for the course, kind of, and just nothing special?
A little bit lazy. A little bit lazy because I feel like when I was reading the manga originally, I think I touched on this earlier. I felt like it was just Gonagai acting out some dark fantasies he wanted to put in some of his other stories, but never had the excuse to. And he just threw a bunch of dark shit in this manga for no reason, and people were intrigued by it, so it just kept going for a morally repugnant amount of time. Yeah, so I just feel like it's him at his laziest. Because Gonagai does this thing where he writes sometimes just to blow off steam, and I feel like this was just that, and an anime studio said, "Fuck it, it's the 80s. We'll make an anime about anything." So I feel like it's going a lot for the shock value. Yeah, as someone who always like to fly, I like to fly the Nagai flag a lot, and this, like I said, I enjoyed parts of it, and I enjoyed the premise, I enjoyed the setup.
Yes.
But then it just got onto the onslaught.
Yeah, was there just a lot.
There was a lot, yeah.
Jeez.
I don't want
like, there was a point that it was okay until, and then there
Yes.
was a point. There was an exact like 30-second mark where things just got fucking crazy.
Exactly. Like, there's the thing. I never want to leave a show, especially the one that's only an hour, feeling exhausted. And I am way too tired to give it a not bad.
Yep.
I got to give this one a bad. That's my reasoning. I'm biased. Screw it. Love you. I'm going to have beer.
Again, for me, not bad. I think what really, but is it good? No, it's definitely not good.
It's definitely not good.
It's not good. No. It's, even to me, that was not by any stretch good, and I would never in a million years recommend that to anybody for any god known reason.
I would only recommend it if I wanted to pull a prank on someone.
Yeah. I'd want to be like, oh, this is great. You gotta check this out. It's fun, really fun. I love it. I really love it. Yeah, but like the thing was, I could never see myself telling anybody to watch this, not necessarily because of the plot, not because of the story, just because of oh my god, just the onslaught of content.
That's the thing
throughout this thing, and just
they put a whole series worth of violence and gore and plot elements into an hour.
Yeah, not even an hour.
Not even an hour.
In like 20 minutes, I feel like.
Yeah, the last half. True.
Oh my
very true.
God.
So that's the thing. It was like you're watching a series on fast forward. Yes. If this was paced better, and those violent bits were interspliced better, maybe my opinion would change. But it was just way too fast. The pacing was out of control. I need a fucking cigarette right now. I don't smoke, but I need a cigarette after this. Yeah. I'm getting a little hot. I'm getting hot.
You getting hot today?
God, you're hot.
Packing the heat today.
Packing a little bit of heat. Call me.
Taking a few sips of hooch.
I'm just sucking on hooch, packing heat. Call me Sekai.
Sucking on. Throwback. Man.
But I'm glad we watched it together. I'm very glad I got to experience.
I'm glad we had
you.
the first experience together, and watching it with you made it like significantly more entertaining than it would be otherwise. Probably.
Yes. That's the thing. We're always gonna be a little biased, especially with stuff we watched together for the first time, because we're sharing the experience. If only we had a Crunchyroll comment section. So for anyone listening to this, scroll down to the comments, please. If you've seen Violence Jack, tell us what you thought. If you haven't seen it, and you're listening to this podcast, fuck it, go watch it.
Yeah, go watch it.
Tell us what you think.
Or I mean,
Let's have a social experiment.
or also don't.
Don't.
That's okay too. And I would be perfectly fine with anybody that
if anyone's out there is a spooky pervert, I mean, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, you'll love it if you're a spooky pervert for sure. But that everybody was Violence Jack, and
Evil Town.
This is bad anime.
And
everybody. That's just it. I'm gonna go to bed.
Want to do shots?
Yeah.
Cool.
In your ear. Podcast Network.